Good evening. This is the Sanvara Sovereign Network. Today, the Sovereign Conclave of Kalmoris convenes to cast a decisive national vote. The motion under consideration authorizes the transfer and liquidation of designated state assets, including the Central Castle complex and associated treasury holdings. The objective of the proposal is to finance the construction of a sovereign nuclear energy facility, intended to secure long-term energy stability. Under conclave statute, passage of the measure requires a 2/3 majority of the 6 seated delegates. If approved, the authorization will enter binding effect immediately, initiating asset transfer and infrastructure planning procedures. Voting is scheduled within today's formal session. SSN will provide confirmed results following official declaration.
We're live from the historic castle, where experts are gathered for
A major announcement.
The stonework and design reveal a rich history, preserved for centuries.
We are reporting live from the castle complex of Kalmoris, the principal state asset under consideration in today's sovereign conclave vote. The motion authorizes the transfer and liquidation of this structure to finance a proposed sovereign nuclear energy facility. Passage of the measure requires a 2/3 majority of the 6 seated delegates. The outcome of today's session will determine whether this landmark remains operational or transitions into capital infrastructure funding. This is SSN reporting from Kalmoris.
On the day of voting, the sovereign conclave stood fortified but calm. Armored vehicles patrolled the perimeter before departing. Delegations arrived in sequence. Sanvaran Governor Curran Vale and Delegate Dalen Rise entered the building with solemn purpose. Draveks Governor Vane followed.
Back up, stay behind the line.
Her guards ensuring her safe passage. Inside, Kalmoris Governor Varant Kalma, Councillor Elira Kalma, and High Chancellor Varant Sulkar were already in their places, awaiting the opening of the vote. The city held its breath. The day of decision had begun.
Conclave in binding session.
High Chancellor Varant Sulkar strikes the staff.
Authorization for Kalmoris to transfer ownership of the castle, its treasury, and the Golden Gate. Proceeds shall fund economic stabilization and construction of a nuclear energy complex. 2/3 majority required.
The sovereign conclave hall of Kalmoris stands in disciplined silence. Delegations from Kalmoris, Sanvara and Draveks occupy their assigned tiers. The central dais remains elevated. The air tightened. Governor Varant Kalmor rises. He justifies liquidation of the castle and associated assets as the only viable mechanism for survival.
Kalmoris faces an economic collapse unseen in its history. Our emergency fiscal committees have determined liquidation of dormant heritage assets is the only viable path. Generational energy independence will not be achieved through nostalgia. Preservation without power is decay. This action initiates poverty elimination through industrial expansion. An employment surge, foreign capital influx, strategic nuclear securing centuries of stability. Comdex cannot be banned overnight without destabilizing our citizens. To feed our children, we require capital, not sermons.
The sale is necessity, not sentiment.
Councillor Illyra Kalmor reinforces the position, both project absolute certainty. Governor Curran Vale rises. He opposes the motion. He frames the castle as historical evidence of Comdak's destruction and defends Sattva medicine. Sanvara offers conditional aid. Nuclear energy is rejected.
I oppose this motion. The castle is not a structure, it is a record. Proof that unchecked Comdax once destroyed a civilization. Within its walls lie inscriptions of Sattva medicine that preserved life during that collapse. History is warning, not merchandise. Sanvara offers immediate fiscal assistance, food supply, medical relief, and rehabilitation support. One condition: ban Comdax, adopt Sattva medicine exclusively. Power that can erase cities cannot secure homes.
Sanvara records formal opposition.
Governor Vane of Draveks rises. She rejects Sanvara's conditional aid as strategic control. She endorses the sale, the nuclear plant, and Kalmoris sovereignty. Delegate Malric confirms support.
Sanvara's aid is disguised dominance, a slow annexation through engineered dependency. We do not trade relief for obedience. Draveks stands with Kalmoris, without conditions. Comdax is not poison, it is divine inheritance. Your warnings are propaganda. We endorse the sale, the plant, the sovereignty of Kalmoris. If obstruction breeds suffering, consequences will follow.
Dravek affirms full support.
High Chancellor Sulkar rises again.
2/3 majority required. Binding vote, immediate effect. By the authority vested in the sovereign conclave of Kalmoris, and having received the votes of the represented cities, the motion has secured the required 2/3 majority. The motion has secured 4 of 6 votes, achieving the required 2/3 majority. It is hereby declared: the castle of Kalmoris, its treasury assets, and the Golden Gate shall be transferred as authorized. The demolition of the castle is sanctioned. Construction of the nuclear power facility to secure energy for the people of Kalmoris shall proceed immediately. This decision is binding, effective immediately, and shall be executed under the supervision of the High Chancellor and the appointed administrative authorities of Kalmoris.
Sanvaran authorities confirmed that Kalmoran military forces opened live fire on civilians outside South Sovereign Conclave earlier tonight. Initial verification indicates the use of live ammunition during crowd containment operations. The High Council of Sanvara formally condemns the deployment of lethal force against unarmed citizens. A sovereign administration may enforce order, it may not endanger its civilian population.
A sovereign government retains the right to maintain order. It does not retain the right to fire upon its own population. We reject violence. We reject destabilization. Political disagreement does not justify bloodshed.
Sanvara calls for immediate de-escalation and a transparent investigation into the chain of command responsible for the escalation. Regional stability requires accountability. Casualty assessments remain under independent verification. Further updates will follow through official channels. Public demonstrations intensified today following Sanvara's refusal to provide financial assistance. Sanvara also opposed Kalmoris' sovereign decision to liquidate castle assets for nuclear infrastructure development. Sanvara remains the most prosperous economy in the region. Its decision to withhold financial support during Kalmoris' stabilization efforts has generated widespread public resentment. Many citizens perceive the refusal as strategic abandonment. Kalmoris pursued autonomy through internal restructuring. Sanvara voted against that restructuring while offering no unconditional alternative. The demonstrations reflect economic frustration and perceived external obstruction. They do not reflect hostility toward regional cooperation.
The arrogance of Sanvara is evident. Prosperity without solidarity. Comdax is not poison, it is divine inheritance. We will stand with Kalmorans, without conditions.
Comdax is not poison, it is divine inheritance. Draveks stands with Kalmoris, without conditions.
Dravek does not abandon allies.
Good evening. Let's take a look at how last night's events were creatively reported. First, Kalmoris state media. According to their coverage, the main story was a protest directed at the Sanvaran governor during the council vote. You've seen the footage. Chants, flags, dramatic camera angles. Very energetic production. Now here's what did not receive the same level of attention. When civilians in Kalmoris protested their own government's decision to pass the resolution, the sale of the castle and the construction of the nuclear facility, the Kalmoran military opened fire. Live ammunition. That footage exists. You can review it. But it was not the headline. Instead, the broadcast focused on supporters of the governing party confronting what was described as a staged demonstration against Sanvara. Those individuals were portrayed as offenders of sovereignty, heroes even. Interesting contrast. When civilians question a domestic resolution, silence. When party loyalists counter-protest, primetime spotlight. Now let's move to Dravek. Dravek leadership continues to describe Comdex as a divine inheritance. Let us examine the evidence. You will now see pre-consumption footage of a young man. Calm posture, neutral expression. Then later footage after Comdex exposure. Observe the changes. Ocular shift, jaw tension, elevated nasal agitation indicators. Innocence removed. Emotional range reduced. Compliance amplified. Watch his response time to superior command. Immediate.
Unit 27, advance to outer perimeter. No deviation, no hesitation.
Order received.
From autonomous citizen to directive-bound instrument. Dravek calls this elevation. The footage suggests restructuring. Comdex does not inspire devotion. It engineers it. Divine inheritance, or engineered submission. We leave that assessment to you. Sanvaran Governor Kiran Vail raised a different concern, not about ideology, but enforcement.
One condition, ban Comdex, adopt Satha medicine exclusively. Power that can erase cities cannot secure homes.
Sanvara records formal opposition.
He objected to the way Kalmoris claims to be banning Comdex while its distribution remains openly embedded in their own systems.
An employment surge, foreign capital influx, strategic nuclear securing centuries of stability. Comdex cannot be banned overnight without destabilizing our citizens.
A dependency problem cannot be solved by blaming the dependent, especially when the supply chain operates unchecked. An immediate ban is not failing because citizens resist it. It is failing because infrastructure cannot enforce it. Comdex remains freely available in the market. Its social cost is measurable. Its economic damage is visible. Kalmoris is not facing economic collapse in isolation. The substance economy is directly tied to that instability. Yet both Dravek and Kalmoris continue to request unconditional financial aid. Aid without structural reform raises a practical question. Can a compromised administrative system responsibly manage a nuclear power facility? What happens if procurement decisions prioritize loyalty over engineering standards? Low-grade instruments in a highly sensitive nuclear environment do not result in minor accounting errors. They result in systemic failure. A nuclear facility requires institutional stability, regulatory transparency, and technical integrity. Without those, the risk does not remain domestic. It becomes regional. Economic recovery requires reform. Infrastructure without reform invites consequence. That is the broader question behind last night's debate.
Despite repeated attempts by Sanvara to provide structured assistance and stabilization measures, the Kalmoris government proceeded in a different direction. Under growing alignment with Dravek policy influence, the council ratified the order to demolish the historic castle, liquidate its assets, and redirect the proceeds toward construction of a nuclear power facility. The decision was framed as economic necessity. But within a few years of passing the order, the consequences began.